you on them, I guess.
It's true. And then number 1, we have Capitec. Capitec has got, oh my goodness gracious me. I'm not making this up, I promise you. We at a positive 85.48%.
85%.
85. Ronald, am I lying?
Damn.
That's a bad one. It's a big number.
It's a big number. It's a big number, yeah. So
85%.
Yeah.
So you're telling me if I invested the same time as we invested and I put in 100 million, I would have got an 85% return on that.
In a year. In a year. Yeah. Yeah, in a year.
Mate, let's quit our jobs and do this thing full time, eh?
You just need that 100 mil first.
Exactly. Which is the difficult part, right?
In a year.
Welcome, investors, to the investment candle. I even forgot the name of our podcast because we haven't been doing this. We haven't been doing this for a while, man.
Wow, it's been a month.
It's been a month now.
Yeah, it's been a month.
So let me start that again.
Yeah.
No, but I'm kidding. But welcome to episode 17 of the Investment Candle podcast. My name is Chifiwa. I'm still your host, even though we've been missing action for about a month now.
Yeah.
And I'm not alone. We've got our guest, Ron, here. Do you want to say hi to the people, Ron?
Hey guys.
And of course, I've got my man in that has made millions in Sasol. How you doing, mate?
Nah, man, I'm good. I'm all right. It's weird that you're associating my name with Sasol, given that they recently announced a 54 billion rand loss. But no, I'm good, my man. Are you well?
Yeah, I'm well, my man. I think given the culture that we usually do, what do you think about the Premier League? Where do you think the Arsenal is going to be at the end of the season? It's only been the first match.
First game. I think let me just give a brief summary of sports in general.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy about the Springboks.
Okay.
We're on a good run.
And also congratulations to all the Olympians.
Yes.
Like great run, eh?
And
great run.
And Driekers.
Driekers, yeah.
So Driekers
you know, he was talking so much on social media. I'm like, if this guy loses, he's never going to hear the end of this, eh?
But it's nice, bro. Like, you know what I love about this guy?
Yeah.
Is that almost every single piece of analysis going into this fight that I watched, they always said that he's going to lose. He's a sloppy fighter. And bro, this guy, he just dogs it. He absolutely, and I love how South African it is. Speaks Afrikaans unapologetically. This guy knows load shedding. Don't fight anyone that understands load shedding. Yeah, but no, Driekers did well. Our Olympians did. If we're honest, they did okay. We had some fantastic performances. Tatiana, she did quite well. Our sprinters did quite well in the relay.
I think, look, we have to give them credit for the fact that if you look at the time that Akani Simbine did, and you look at the records of the world, it's number 3, right?
No.
Is it not?
Not even close, mate.
Is it not number 3?
No, this guy, bro. Like, I mean, you've got situations such as like, Usain Bolt broke the world record, I think, like twice.
Yeah, but I mean,
so that's already 2 spots, meaning that you have one more, and he came number 4.
Yeah.
So meaning that there are 3 other people.
No, he came number 3. On the thingy, on the relay.
Oh, talking about relay.
I'm talking about relay.
I'm not talking about the 100 meters.
No, I'm not talking about the 100 meters. I'm talking about relay. Because I mean, he came 4th. He didn't get a medal for 100 meters.
Yeah, no, the relay was good. I enjoyed that.
We got a silver there. We got a silver for the relay.
We got the silver.
What do you get silver?
We came number 2.
No, I mean like on the records. Okay. I think his time is like number 3 in the world.
His actual split.
Yeah. I think his time is number 3 in the world.
But it's all good. Like, we were okay. We were good. In fact, slightly above good, I think. And then obviously the football, the season started.
But to be fair, we sent 71 Olympians apparently.
We sent 71.
Yeah, and only came back with how many medals?
Yeah, 5, 6.
Conversion rate is not really good.
How many do you know, Ronald?
I think Tatiana got 2.
Yes.
The javelin got a medal there.
Yes.
Got the BMX. Got the rugby.
Yes.
Got the relay.
The relays.
We got the 7 rugby medal.
Number 3, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
How did I miss that?
Yeah, no, we did. It was so early, so like people didn't really watch the sevens because it even started before the opening ceremony.
How is that?
Yeah, so
okay.
maybe not many people.
Maybe that's why.
But all in all, bro, Arsenal did okay. We won. So far so good.
So you're gonna win the league this season? Are you betting your money on it?
No, I'm just I'll see what happens. What are your thoughts, Ron, on the sports?
Are you also like do you support football? Do you follow football?
Yes, I watch a lot of sports. Football is one I've stayed away from because I think that seems to be like a midweek thing, you know.
Yeah.
I'm crazy into my sports. So I watch football every 4 years when there's World Cup.
Yeah.
So you watch a bit of rugby, Olympics, glued to the screen, Tour de France. It's actually very good to watch this year.
Okay.
There's some generational talent there.
Hectic.
Pogacar and Vingegaard. So I watch a bit of that, but really into my running. So I was really hyped up for the marathon, the men's and the women's marathon. But yeah, it was a little bit like iffy, the marathon, I must say. Kipchoge pulled out 30 Ks.
No.
Obviously, you wanted to see what I consider the GOAT, you know, round it off and get another medal there.
Yeah.
And the ladies, her son really like sprinted to the line there at the finish. So that was good to see.
Yeah.
Hectic.
And do you run yourself?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah. Have you run a marathon before?
Couple, yeah. Running Puffer next weekend. So 67K.
How long is that? 67K.
Trail run, yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
Thank you, but no thank you.
Bro.
Thank you, but no thank
I'm
you.
even lazy to drive 67 kilometers.
Yeah, petrol's expensive, you know, so I'd rather run.
You don't need petrol to run, don't you?
Nah.
Hectic.
Okay, fair enough.
No, you're
fair
very
enough.
much into running. His comment about the Tour de France. I haven't seen a Tour de France since the chap from the United States.
Oh, yeah, Lance Armstrong.
Lance Armstrong.
Yeah.
Jeez, you are following the names even. My
No,
God.
there's like, if you've watched the Drive to Survive on
Formula One.
Yeah, Formula One, there's a similar one called, I think, Unchained.
Unchained.
It's really good, and like it gives you great perspective in terms of like what goes into the planning, nutrition, you know, what the actual route looks like, the rivalries. I highly recommend it, even if you're not a cycling fan.
Intense.
Yeah.
We'll check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, mate.
No, it makes sense. I think for me, football, menu. Look, I don't have much confidence in this season. I think every season Ten Hag says we're not ready. We're getting our team on the line and all those things. So I'm not holding my breath for it. You know.
Nice.
But anyway, let's move on to before we get started on the portfolio check. How are we doing with the competition? We closed the competition, the submissions, right?
Yeah.
And then I just need to create a tracking mechanism to see the names of the people that are actually doing well.
Yeah.
So Ron, for your sake, we're running an investment competition. So people have submitted their preferred stocks at a specific date. I can't remember what date it was.
Yeah.
And then from that date, we'll start kind of tracking the investment return, including dividends to the stock and also capital gains to the stock. And then the winner gets 5,000 Rand cash.
Cheers. Cool initiative, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, you can start with the portfolio check, mate.
The portfolio check. Thank you so much for running through the investment candle challenge. That's what the tournament. That's what the tournament. Say tournament. That's what the competition is.
You see, I've forgotten all these names, man. Like it's been a while.
That was a good. But
ICC,
yeah. It's exactly that. We're nearly putting up to the 25 episode mark. Apparently, that's the magic mark to solidify that indeed you have a regular podcast, because like many people started, they hardly end at 25, or they end before 25. So passing that and something, but we're nearly there.
You're a data person, so I could help you.
Yeah, we also have another data person as well here. So the portfolio check, we've been performing, man.
Yeah,
we've been performing, which has been fabulous to see. And those who have been following us, if you've been following us, you also performing. Which is fantastic. So we are up, the total holdings, we are up 15.91% as per today. This was before markets closed today.
Okay.
So it will probably be slightly different when we check again tomorrow. But this was on about 2 o'clock today. We are up. I'll put in the screenshot over here. Yeah, so we're up by 15.91%. And the composition of our portfolio it looks like this. We have 1, 2, 3. We have 7 companies. And number 7, start from the lowest to the
Don't look at me when you say
but yeah, so it's Anglo. Anglo Platinum is number 7. And with Anglo, I know. It's been difficult. It's been very, very difficult. But it's at a negative 10.25%.
Yeah.
Then we have.
Look, I think if I had to comment on Anglo, I think look, the commodity prices, especially the space that they're in the PGM, have seen a little bit of a dip, right? So that has affected the business quite a bit, and also the inherent issues that are in South Africa. I think we've run down quite a lot of those.
We've spoken too much about that.
About the ports and all of those stuff. So look, I think for me it's still hold.
But that stuff that you talked about, which is more structural in nature, I'm seeing a bit of an uplift. So an improvement. We spoke about the port situation. We saw a bit of profitability coming on from Transnet. We saw a leadership change. Which was good sentiment in the market, of which they were brought in. I've got a good feeling. I've also got a good feeling. This ties, unfortunately, to the politics, which we said that we're not going to speak about. But unfortunately, we can't not speak about it. I mean, with the GNU, there's good sentiment. Hopefully that cascades down. We've had more than 150 days of electricity.
Right?
Which is fantastic.
It's fantastic. I think, look, businesses should be booming. There's a video that there's a recording that I remember, like someone says something like, this gives Zimbabwe, he says markets on the side of the road, business is booming. So this is where I get the line of business is booming from, you know?
Amazing.
So, yeah.
So no, good. I hear your perspective on Anglo. Then
for me, I think it's still hold. Don't buy more, but hold.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Anglo. Then we have Sun International. Sun International, it's at 2%.
To the green.
To the green, yes.
Bravo to you, mate.
It's okay. It's hold for me. I'm gonna get to the one where I've reached the point where I'm gonna sell. So that's Sun International. And then we have Discovery. Discovery for me, I think, has run its course in our portfolio.
I think.
I'll get into the reasoning next episode because I want to actually have
the suspense is killing people.
No, but I know I've seen some things. I've seen a lot of corporate musical chairs within the group itself.
Okay.
Finding ways on how to squeeze out value. I'm not quite sure as how to extract the total embedded value from the Discovery Bank just yet. And I think I've been in this position for quite a while. And I don't like to be in the state of limbo of like, how can I actually see this thing? That's one of the reasons, but we'll get to that more.
It's a complicated business.
It is.
Discovery.
Yeah, I mean, they've got the medical as well. Like a lot of uncertainty around that, I guess, with the NHI. Yeah. But get onto that next episode. I won't be here.
But I'm actually keen to see in the comments, Ronald, in the next one.
But you can say that given the diversity of the different businesses under it, I mean, it could be a natural hedge on itself, right? I mean, they've got the medical scheme, right? The Discovery Medical Scheme. They've got the life business as well. They've got the bank as well that has been growing. Not so much lately. Because we've seen with Time Bank, it's grown faster than Discovery Bank. We can debate on how what our views are on that. But I mean, given all this different Vitality as well is quite a separate business that has been doing well, even including overseas, right? Globally. I mean, it's a global business. So I think it's on its own, it's probably a natural hedge on the exposure in this kind of insurance, medical, all short-term, old healthcare, whatever, you know?
Makes sense. Like, I think there's a fine line between hedge and diversification and complexity. And I think that's where I'm stuck.
Okay.
But no, this is actually your company.
Exactly. That's my company.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're running the portfolio together. If you feel like it's run its course, we can debate it, you know?
It's fine.
Well, I just know my smoothies are getting smaller or less frequent every week. So Something's changing in the background.
They're getting smaller. Oh my gosh.
Less frequent, rather. Yeah.
Discovery. That is hilarious, Ronald. And then we have British and American Tobacco. That it is a positive 5.1%. Well done, mate. That's your investment there.
Yeah. I don't even smoke, but I chose the company.
Yeah, I think it was episode 11 or something like that, where you delve deeply into it. So if you want to check it out, as to his investment thesis, please go check out that episode. Then now we get to the business end of our business. We have Naspers. Naspers has been quite robust, at a positive 7.61%.
I feel like Naspers is a bit of an unfair business, because of its...
Fair. That's an interesting word.
Look, I think because of its magnitude on the market, whatever happens, like a small positive, it has so massive impact, even on the stock market itself and also on the business itself, right? So, look, it's... I think it's a bit of an unfair business to hold, but yeah.
Yeah, man. It's a market mover. I think that's what you alluded to. Whatever happens to Naspers happens to Naspers, and process happens to the
market. Right?
I was going to mention something interesting. The new CEO, he's always in South Africa, the place here in Cape Town. Whenever I'm not in Cape Town, and our buildings are opposite each other. Yeah. So I'm keen to actually meet him.
The guy.
If he ever gets an opportunity to watch this, Fabrizio. I work at Take-A-Lot across the road. Let's do coffee. I'm joking.
It doesn't take a lot to get there.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. Nah, I'm not sure if that's... No, it was not. That deserves a red.
I'm a dad, so I'm excused.
That is a red. We have Naspers, and then number 2, we have your company, ShopRite.
I mean...
yes,
and
briefly.
What's the... What to the green?
35.02.
35%.
35%. It's been fantastic. It's been wonderful. And then number 1, we have Capitec. Briefly before I get to Capitec, we were speaking a little bit about ShopRite before the camera started rolling.
Yeah.
You still say that they've got runway.
Yeah, I think we've discussed it that it's got runway because, like I said, they're reaping the rewards of their investment in the past, right? And they have far exceeded their competitors in terms of investments. And while their competitors are still battling to find their identity, for example, Pick n Pay doesn't know what the hell they're doing. They've changed brand strategies for so many times. Some they're dropping now. So you can see that they've got an identity issue. And now the family is saying that they're losing control of the business, right? Because they're selling to now not have more than 50 plus. So you can see already there are inherent issues in the business where, they're still going to navigate that. And that's going to take time to get into shape and for them to actually invest in the right strategy and the right kind of look and feel in the stores, and also invest in the distribution centers, whatever. Spar as well, their South African business is funding the losses of overseas. I think they're trying to get rid of their Polish business if they have not gotten rid of it. So you can see all the issues that the competitors are facing. They're kind of deterring investment, and investment takes time for it to reap rewards, right? And because of that, ShopRite is not slowing down on investing, right? I mean, 66 is still fantastic business. It's not profit making yet, but it's still fantastic business.
It's not profit making.
It's difficult to make a tech business very profitable. It takes time for it to be very profitable. So yeah, I think it's so much about what's happening in the competitors that gives them a lot of runway. In my opinion, I think I mentioned this and then you got a little bit of a shock when I said, I think ShopRite still has a 5-year runway.
Yeah, I'm not sure. 5 years. Yeah, no, but I hear you, mate. It's a star performer. So whatever you are doing, keep doing it.
It's not me. It's the guys that are managing it. I just have a view on the market.
It's true. And then number 1, we have Capitec. Capitec has got, oh my goodness gracious me. I'm not making this up. I promise you. We at a positive 85.48%.
85%.
85. Ronald, am I lying?
Damn.
That's a bad one. It's a big number.
It's a big number. It's a big number, yeah. So
85%.
Yeah.
So you're telling me if I invested the same time as we invested and I put in 100 million, I would have got an 85% return on that.
In a year. In a year. Yeah. Yeah, in a year.
Mate, let's quit our jobs and do this thing full time, eh?
You just need that 100 mil first.
Exactly. Which is the difficult part, right?
In a year. But like, yeah, that's the portfolio check. We're doing okay for now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm hoping we're gonna. I was just thinking right now, we're gonna put more stuff on our social media, on our LinkedIn, on the composition of our portfolio.
I think this is a good start to put, like,
of course,
this screenshot deserves its own
nice.
LinkedIn post.
Yeah. While you're up,
while we're
while we're up, we might as well.
Can make it look good. We'll get into some of the points. I also want to add an element of risk management to it. So I'm going to add in a few ratios, the Sharpe ratio and all that type of thing, just to give it a whole look and feel to it. Yeah. But that's the portfolio check, mate.
Okay, it's good that we're on the green. I mean, Ron, what has been your best investment if you recall, like where you actually made proper money?
She's asking my wife to marry me.
You just can't. What is this? The right answers, eh?
No, she's gonna be watching. That's
exactly.
Yes.
No, like, I mean, I don't do a lot of my own personal investing. I've tried for like academic purposes. I think what really got me into it and sort of thinking about it was definitely like access to trading platforms and that sort of thing that it seems like you guys use. Obviously crypto brought a lot of people's attention to investing. Actually in interviewing and coming from engineering, the people that I was interviewing with asked me if I do my own investing, and that really got me interested as well. So I would say, and based on where I work and the type of work that I do, it's not that easy to sort of trade. We have to hold for a period of time and declare. So that layer of complexity just shies me a little bit away from investing. But definitely have looked at some of the companies, have held some of the companies that you've got. Naspers has done well for me in the past. Can't particularly say when I invested in them that I did any research. It was just sort of, the big name, the big player. But I've learned a lot since then. Also looked at sort of some offshore companies like around the COVID period. Shopify, I thought that the e-commerce platform we're going to pick up a lot. And coupled to that, Pinterest wanted to start looking at, that space as well. So I picked up a bit of Pinterest. Those two did well for me. Some bad decisions was investing in some of the airlines during the COVID period. Like Boeing was one of them.
Whoa!
And it's got lots of issues right now.
What is the process around Boeing? Right?
I thought I'd just wing it. No, all jokes aside, like I did make a little bit of money off of it. Obviously, the airline companies sort of tanked
during COVID.
Or manufacturers, tanked during COVID. And I thought, just buy at the dip. That was my sort of strategy back in the day, not really looking at the fundamentals, but really just intuitively like looking at where things are going positionally wise, like across the world. Airbus obviously would have been a better bet. And I think that's probably a good lesson for everyone, is to also look at the management and the people that are running a business. And I know they've been pretty much in bad press because of that more recently so than ever.
You're preaching to the choir, mate. I mean, look, we've had a full episode and a half about governance structure and assessing management. And also just, sometimes I was telling Nico that spending time with the people that you invest in actually helps a lot in terms of analyzing what kind of person is. Because some people really are good salespeople, but they don't do the work. They really don't do the work. And I mean, guys like Steinhoff, I mean, if you sat in a meeting and they're presenting their financial results back in the day, I mean, you'd think this company is going to take over the world, It's going to the moon. It's going to be worth like Tesla and all of those things, right? But I mean, spending time with those people kind of like helps assessing what kind of people they are. But I want to take it back, man. Like, I know you guys know each other from back in the day.
Yeah.
I'd like for you to, any of you to kind of, where did you guys meet? What is the school that you guys went to? That, because both of you are now in data. Yeah. Right. So, what is the school that produces data scientists?
You went there. I'll kick it off, and then I'll leave it to Ron to take us home.
Yeah.
But I was one grade below Ronald. He was in grade 9. Obviously, I was in grade 8.
Yeah.
There's a school down in Durban called Westville Boys High School.
Yeah.
And that's where we went. Westville. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Westville.
That's where the
Jubula.
G.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So Ronald, in my view, not even just in my view, what happened was he and he's not gonna say it, but I will. Like, he was good at everything. He was like academics, he was good. Sports, he was good.
Yeah.
Cultural stuff, he was good. He was a teacher's darling. And I'm like, okay, who is this guy? Who is this
teacher's
guy?
Pet. Yeah.
But it's interesting to see where life has actually brought us. In that we kind of knew the people that were going to do well in life, you know, just have good direction, of which hopefully he can expand more as to where does he get his focus and his mentality and all that. But no, he was just that guy. And then I bumped into his LinkedIn profile this year when we were looking for more guests to fill up our guest pipeline.
Yeah.
And we wanted to, obviously, we are in this direction of diversifying our content offering, different asset classes, also different things, such as data. And then I saw this guy. I'm like, this name is very, very familiar. And hit him up with a DM. Ron agrees. And we are here where we are. But yeah, that's briefly how.
So you guys will go way back to, is it a high school or you said primary school?
Yeah.
High school.
It's a high school, but I would like him to share a little bit about from high school, because he kind of did well in everything. Like, where did he go from there? What did he study? And his journey basically.
Ron, like when you were in high school, when you're sitting there thinking, okay, I'm a master of everything. What were you thinking your career was going to look like? You know?
If you asked my mom that question, she would have said something very different to what I'm doing today. She wanted me to essentially play in the orchestra overseas somewhere. A bit of violin. Yeah.
Orchestra.
I mean, I enjoyed music, enjoyed a lot of things, enjoyed sport.
Do you still play some instruments?
Sadly, like, my violin's in Durban. I didn't personally enjoy or like drive it that much to take it beyond, school.
Okay.
I think in an all-boys school, playing a classical instrument can be quite tough. But luckily, I played rugby and all of that stuff as well.
Yeah. Kind of compensate for this.
For the violin.
But yeah, like, in all honesty, I'm very grateful that I did. I got early exposure to it. My mom's sort of a pianist, got a music degree. My dad's a surgeon. It's a very diverse way of thinking. Grew up as one of 3 boys in the house. So big lunch boxes, my mom and my parents really doing a lot for us. My dad also making a really good call to send us to a school like Westville. A very good Model C school, 300 boys in a grade, from all racial, economic, cultural backgrounds. So there wasn't really any classism or any funny this or that, we were all just boys there on a mission.
Quite right,
to learn, to, excel in whatever we're doing. Like, we had some really good sportsmen in my year, like Chad Leclerc was in my grade. Olympic gold medalist.
Really?
So we had some...
and Chad Ho was a grade above you.
2 years above you. 2 years my brother's grade. We had
so that's cool. Okay, I'm sending my kid there.
It's a great school. I mean, if that school was here in Cape Town, I've heard people sort of compare it to Saks or Rondebosch. I don't want to offend anyone like with that if it's not true. But I think those are similar schools, but like very, very diverse, very good teachers. Sort of half of the teachers are privately funded, like good multi-purpose center, really good admin and staff and everything. And really, you mentioned earlier, like the art teacher that used to talk about me, or that sort of thing.
The people that watch this and who went to Westville, you know exactly who I'm speaking about.
I mean, like, it's actually a very good example, because that teacher, the fact that you still remember him, I remember him, really shaped the way that I think today. Because there was no limit to what we could do in that class. I did arts as an extra subject because of the expression. My mind can be very analytical, very box-like, but in the art space, you could just put everything on the table, and he allowed you to do that. If you wanted to do something in mixed media or something more visual arts on the computer, boom, there's a Mac computer at a government school, you know, like to have that sort of resource and freedom. So that really shaped, you know, my thinking in terms of what do I want to do one day. I always wanted to follow in my dad's footsteps and become a surgeon, but he sort of made me question my decision halfway through matric. Like I did get into medicine, but he said, like, look, it's a very long journey. I studied for 12 years, you know, to specialize in this direction. There's a lot of things that can change in 12 years.
Yeah.
If we take 12 years from 2010, I mean, that's mid-COVID pretty much. So it's a long time if you think of what could change and how your passion and things could change in that period. So I thought engineering was probably the safer bet in that sense, to have a more general degree where you could be a bit more innovative. I'm not saying medicine's not innovative, but you know, you can decide to be a lot of different things in engineering. You can pivot, you can point yourself in different directions. So halfway through engineering, we were again presented with an opportunity to have our master's degrees funded. And at the time, it was actually like good timing, like asset integrity management and machine learning and AI was like really hype thing in engineering. And
what engineering was this?
This is mechanical and aeronautical engineering. So very
where did you do it?
University of Pretoria.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad. I really wanted to come here.
You should have, man. You missed out, mates.
My brother,
you missed out.
My brother was already up there, and I'm glad I didn't, because I've moved across the whole country. You know, like born in Bloem.
Yeah.
Grew up in Durban, studied up in Pretoria.
Now live in Cape Town.
Now live in Cape Town, and yeah, it's what a place to be.
Yeah.
Epic.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. And then if you can walk me through your career, how does the data space come in? Because you're in engineering, you probably don't, you're doing something related to that. But I mean, data, it's pretty new in terms of, you know, the field and all of that. Yeah. Are you thinking, okay, do I have a job security in this engineering stuff? Or how do you shape your mind in terms of pivoting your career to get where you are today?
Yes, I think you're definitely a product of your environment. The same is true for, you know, my life here in Cape Town.
Yeah.
You know, when you live in Gauteng, all you do is pretty much gym and go to movies on the weekend.
Yeah.
Since then, you know, living here in Cape Town, I do a lot of running. We've got the mountain on our door.
That's actually true. I never looked at it that way.
It was sport for choice.
Yeah. I've never looked at it that way, that if you're in Cape Town, you're actually, you know, compelled or encouraged to actually do a lot of outdoor activities, you know?
I mean, how many gyms are here in Cape Town? I mean, there are a lot of smaller gyms, but not as many Virgin Actives per se. I think the same applies like with what you study and what you end up doing. Like if you did engineering maybe 30 years ago, you either go work for Sasol, Arms Corps, Denel as a mechanical
my former
engineer,
clients.
or for one of the big energy or Eskom. Like now, you don't really want to be associated with it, although they've got a good track record recently.
150 days with power, man. They've been doing well.
No, for sure. But then, like more recently, you know, like you've seen the shift in the engineering space where companies view them as more like problem solvers. Very generous degree. Like we get exposed to very rich maths and stats and sort of like technical background where program is really embedded in terms of what we're doing, but really to solve a particular problem or a diverse set of problems. So we never did like a lot of like formal programming courses. We did one in second year, but really in honors and masters, you're forced to process a lot of heavy data, obviously on the computer, and you're not studying AI or machine learning to just understanding, using it to solve a particular problem.
Sure.
And my project focused on predicting like the remaining useful life of heavy turbo machinery. So ironically, like Eskom's big turbines, every single blade, monitoring how they vibrate, and if that natural frequency changes over time, what that implies in terms of you know, the blade's condition without even opening up. So that's all signal processing. Signal processing, we see it all over the place, like time series data, patterns that present itself with a certain frequency. You can see it in the market. That same way of thinking, you can apply it to a completely different industry. And I think that's what engineering really allowed me, is to be able to rather learn or teach myself the ability to solve a problem or to learn something new and then apply it in a very practical setting. So I considered things like management consulting. I considered working for some of the banks.
I've got a lot of mates in banking, that are engineers.
A lot of them, yeah.
A lot of them sellouts.
Yeah. You call them BCom engineering.
BCom engineering.
Which I also ended up in. So.
Wait, so like after Takis, where did you go to? Where did you end up?
So I ended up pursuing my master's. Yeah, so they funded that. We had to do a bit of work for the research unit at the university full-time. Did a bit of tutoring, that sort of thing. It was a really good time. I think again, like the art class, very open canvas. You could decide what your research focuses on. There's a lab at your disposal. And yeah, like it
Sorry,
really...
was your master's in art?
No, my master's was in in asset integrity management. So predictive analytics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez.
That makes sense.
So then like after Takis, is that when you made the switch to financial services, or did you still...
Always wanted to end up a little bit more in business in whatever shape or form. Was interviewing with one of the sort of big management consulting companies at the time. Some of the banks, other engineering or energy. So I literally made sure that I finished my master's 3, 4, 5 months before I needed to submit.
Okay.
So that I could actually interview and go through the process and really decide where I wanted to end.
You can give me some tips on how to finish a master's on time.
You just said that nonchalantly. Geez, Ronald.
I mean, I started earlier than everyone else. So in the holidays, I already started with my lab setup. So that bought me 3 months because I didn't have to wait for procurement of equipment and all that stuff. So actually by starting a couple of weeks earlier, it bought me a lot of time. Yeah, and then I was just putting your head down and focusing. But yeah, I ended up, like you said, in more financial services. I would call it more the fintech space. Cool opportunity presented itself where we pretty much started off a data science team at one of the leading sort of financial services providers in South Africa. And yeah, I haven't looked back since. I think it's given me good exposure in terms of business, technology, a rich culture again, and the ability to live in a beautiful place like Cape Town.
Like, and how does data come into financial services in terms of the investment side? I mean, we get a lot of questions or I get a lot of questions around, you get guys that have a background in computer science, for example, come and ask me, how can I fit into the investment space? So how does that data science actually fit into the investment space? Do you guys help with predictive analysis in terms of, analyzing stocks? Do you do the same work that an analyst would do, or how does it differ?
So definitely there's opportunity in the actual investment stream to support what investment analysts are doing, like provide them with more richer views of, whatever they want to look at to formulate the investment thesis. Like that's one side of it. I'm not saying that we exclusively do that, and we definitely don't. We've got a very good team that is very independent minded, like in that sense. But if you look at sort of the business as a whole, there's obviously a retail side, there's an institutional side. And on that, like there's obviously the platform layer. So to ensure that retail investors, can invest with us, there's a whole technology element to like actually run the flow of money coming into the business and leaving the business, doing a lot of like fraud, anti-money laundering, regulatory things, structuring products, understanding, client behavior so that we best position ourselves to deliver that exceptional service. And keep all the lights running in that sense. Like if there are discrepancies or clients that want to call in about something specific, how do you ensure that there's efficiency? How do you ensure that operational teams have the right data to serve the clients better? But we'll probably get more into it. But like on the investment side, there's definitely some very interesting things. And I think that's where a lot of the industry is heading, is like who owns the latest snapshot or the most real-time snapshot of, whether the data is sentiment for news analytics, whether it's, in the trading space, different signals that you're tracking there. Like at least my company, we're not high frequency traders. We're more long-term focused in that sense. And again, formulating the right investment thesis and sticking to what our ethos is.
That sounds like a very technical environment to work in.
I've got a somewhat question. Sorry, mate, to cut you there.
Yeah.
You mentioned something important, which I consider as important, that you were one of the first people to actually build that capability in the place where you work at the moment. How was that like? Because you already got I don't want to use the word legacy, but it's an established building a new capability, you coming out of varsity, and building something which is new. How did you do it? How did you manage expectations? Because AI and machine learning and data science is buzzwords. It gets people excited. So a lot of hype. How did you manage that while building the capability?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it was definitely a lot of hype around that time. And there was a lot of hype like around, the likes of ChatGPT and LLMs more recently. So I think we're in like a very similar sort of crossroad. And there's been a little bit of maturity, or quite a bit of maturity, since I sort of started in that journey. But your question around like, how did I manage expectations, coming from varsity? I think it was the perfect time to sort of get into the space, because it was very experimental. It was, again, that open canvas that I saw in art, the open canvas that I saw in sort of my master's, and then coming with an open canvas where there almost aren't any expectations initially. And like, this is an experimental team. This is what we think, the team's value should be, but we also want the team to sort of showcase like what the value could be. Not necessarily reinventing the wheel like you would in university, while you're doing your thesis, but using existing, Python packages to do something that has business value and business output. There were a lot of challenges. The first year was very experimental. Like, we built operations sort of tooling that would automatically classify inbound documents, like scan documents or photos of documents. A lot of pre-processing, the aim was to route the documents to different consultants. But the challenge was that our team was very siloed, and we didn't really work with the operations team and the rest of the information technology to understand the systems and sort of the underlying processes on there. So that project was a success and a failure in its own right, but it really self-corrected, in terms of the direction our team went from there.
Makes sense. No, I was going to ask, given that it sounds very technical, how does your day look like? Like, typically when I ask investors what their day look like, they will tell you, okay, I wake up in the morning and I pick up a newspaper. Right now, obviously, they just click on their phone and find some news and read, and then they get to, early introduced into the day and what's happening in the world. And then from there, work, or they do some run, whatever. Like, how does your day look like in solving all this complex problem around managing operations and automating some of the things to achieve efficiency?
Yeah, so I think some days are very disjointed. They're new things that come in requests, legacy things that we've developed that we have to maintain, that are giving some issues. I think it's always good having like a bigger stream of work, like a big project that you're working on. I mean, it shouldn't be the aim necessarily, but we inevitably do. So that helps us, plan and keep that stream intact. But we also just sort of self-manage in terms of some of these ad hoc requests that come in. We've got a very good sort of flexible working dynamic in my team, and a lot of autonomy in terms of how we maintain our day. Like, that comes obviously with a lot of pros and cons as well. I just don't have any time to waste in my day. Like, as a as a dad of a 1-year-old, you know, you don't sleep lots. Like, I'm very serious about my running.
Yeah.
I've obviously got a wife as well. And like, I just make sure that I execute and on the deliverables that I've set out for that particular day.
Sure.
It's something that a good professor at varsity told me, like with the masters, like if there's one piece of advice that they can give me, and a lot of the output is very ambiguous, which just tends to be with ours. Like we can't really say this is going to take 3 months or 6 months. Sometimes it ends up taking a lot shorter or longer. Is to focus on a particular day. Like say by the end of the day, you want to get this done. And 99% of the time you get that done. And then there's continuity. You sort of working on the next iteration of that tomorrow, but you're building on it. So that's sort of how we structure our day. And we obviously use like a more agile way of working as well. We've got our task planners. We try to position it in terms of shorter sprints and things, but in the data space, that doesn't always work really well.
I know all about that. Just going back to the investment side, we've seen a blow up in the hype around AI and machine learning. We've seen companies such as NVIDIA become rock stars. Absolutely. Like the graph, as much as how I was appreciating our graph, their graph is even better. Their performance is even better. So, like, what do you make of all this? Do you reckon this is justified? The craze over AI at the moment and that we see in the investment space? Is it a bubble? Is it real? What do you make of all of this?
There's a very interesting book that I think sort of positions this landscape that we're in now. It's called Chip Wars.
Chip Wars, yeah.
Not mistaken. And it's actually, I think the book was actually released before this drive in NVIDIA. When you read that book, you do notice, you know, how few players there actually are in this sort of semiconductor space, in the design and the manufacturing, sort of the machinery that actually prints these chips, these lithography machines. And they pretty much, one company owns the recipe, you know, to manufacture these machines. And their regulation against like selling the latest version of these machines to China, so that they manufacture the latest chips with the smallest level of precision as well. So when you look at the space and sort of how many bottlenecks there are, you know, in terms of that, and the leaps and bounds that have been made in the AI application or use case, you know, obviously with large language models, the likes of OpenAI and ChatGPT, I think the craze probably is somewhat justified because you've obviously got the short supply on the one side, you've got NVIDIA creating the graphics cards, and all this AI requires graphical processing power to actually train and retrain and sort of to get the next iteration of it. So there's definitely justification in the craze, but at the same time, I think that there is a craze. It's difficult to position exactly like what the rand or the dollar amount is like in terms of value and where we are going. I think we are somewhat over the hype cycle, like those Gartner curves that you generally see, and now we're probably going to go through somewhat of a trough disillusionment, and then that plateau where there's a bit of maturity.
Love the Gartner curve.
Yeah, and I think you know, in the next couple of years, we're probably going to understand a little bit better like what this intrinsic value is around graphic or processing power that required, you know, to train the next versions of AI.
And as far as the technologies that we have, because I'm sure that a lot of it is not in production. Like a lot of it is just still conceptual and still theoretical. What is that roadmap for these new AI, machine learning technologies, that type of thing? It's still more coming out. Yeah?
Jeez, I mean, I'm sure in a week or a month's time when people listen to this podcast, what we're saying is probably going to be outdated. Like, I think that's how fast things are moving, and have moved in the past year. I think the version of, you know, these large language models that we're seeing now, like they're good for certain tasks. Like I think summarization, some Q&A, but there's still some very serious concerns, obviously, like around regulation and governance and really what this thing becomes. And like the obvious pitfalls like hallucination in terms of you seeing hands with 6 fingers. So
ChatGPT, when it first came out, like, okay, there's a lot of hallucination.
But I think at the moment, like it's almost like a cool tool. It's great for students, but I don't think people really like the value in itself, like how to position it as a product and to drive, thinking isn't really there yet. I think we're at that stage now where it's being packaged as applications. People are using it to see how they can drive internal business value, create efficiency. Your question in terms of like, where is it going next? Yeah. I think for me, it's almost like a scary thought in a sense. Like I think it's definitely a technology that's here to stay and we should embrace it. And the people that embrace it and companies that embrace it in the best way possible first are probably going to be around for a little bit longer. But I know like Wong from NVIDIA has even said there's no point teaching your kids how to program anymore, to focus on that, because programming is essentially a way that we communicate with machines to perform a specific task. And it's our interpretation or our language that we impose on the machine to some extent to sort of read in binary. But if these large language models can figure out a way to do it even better, I mean, what's the point to create your own programming language? Exactly. So I think we're reaching into a interesting space or sphere where there are a lot of these optimizations going to be taking place in terms of communicating with machines, finding better ways of doing things, but also taking the output of these LLMs with a pinch of salt. Still seeing that there's value having the human in the loop to make more informed business decisions.
I can only imagine the type of jobs that will be needed in the future, given the growth in such spaces, But I think my question is around, we've seen NVIDIA's valuations are crazy, right? In my view, I think we've debated this and I said it's not justified, right? I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty around the technology. There's still a lag behind in terms of regulation and in terms of limiting certain things because regulation is going to follow. It always takes a lag behind inventions, right? But obviously, regulation is going to have some certain limitations on how these companies can operate. But given that, right, I think NVIDIA probably has a first mover advantage of some sort. Is there an element of barriers to entry in the space such that, NVIDIA could potentially still go up? I mean, NVIDIA and others could potentially still hold up runway of having such crazy valuations and maintain that momentum, or like you said, we live in a world that is very fast, that tomorrow something new could come up. But I'm really asking around, are there barriers to entries in the space for different companies to come and compete in that space, and we could see some realistic valuations for these companies?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, definitely that Chip Wars book outlines it really well.
Yeah.
The Western sort of advantage now is that a lot of that technology and the manufacturing is owned, by trusted Western, companies that are listed. Obviously not very knowledgeable in that space in terms of how to properly evaluate a company, and I don't think a lot of people really know how to actually evaluate NVIDIA at this stage, like you mentioned.
Agree.
And what the future holds in that sense. But there are really like very real, like tangible barriers to entry, I think, in the semiconductor space, as I've outlined, like what the bottlenecks around the lithography machinery, the supply of the materials, the silicon to actually manufacture the wafers, the actual companies that have the skill set to manufacture these things in the most pristine conditions. Like we're talking about nanometers of precision.
Wow.
And it's probably going to get even smaller, like if it continues to follow Moore's law. China is, from what I've read and seen, like working day and night to be able to crack the code to manufacture their own chips that are a step ahead of what Western companies are putting out there. And I think once that happens, or there's some inkling of that being possible, or more of an inkling of that being possible, I think you're going to see some big shocks potentially in the likes of Nvidia and in the market.
Yeah, because my follow-up question was going to be around China, because we know that they can replicate things in a faster pace and actually make it better. I mean, if you go to Europe right now, right? Europe has this thing around EVs, right? Adopting EVs, and obviously at the backdrop
EVs
of
being
electrical vehicles, like at the backdrop of climate change, right? And you see a lot of Chinese EVs that are actually in Europe, so just the sheer amount of ability to actually replicate and do it faster, efficiently, less costly, even allegedly. So it's that was going to be my question, that why hasn't China actually followed in this aspect? Why haven't we seen that level of new entrants in the market to kind of compete with companies like Nvidia?
But I've got a follow-up question. How big is this market? Because and how old is it? I mean, if it's old, then maybe your question makes sense. But if it's something that's burgeoning, then you could say that is something that they're working on. And in the future, that's when you're going to see more and more. We didn't see with EVs, we didn't see it happen in a day. With other technologies, we didn't see it happen immediately.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the argument around EVs, right? Regulation aspect kind of created demand. There was no really demand back in the past when regulation to kind of curb and reduce carbon emission was not there, right? Because in the past, it was a recommendation from like sustainable development goals, like we need to reduce the carbon emissions and all of those stuff. But right now, regulation is quite serious about reducing the carbon emissions, right? And I saw even, what country is it? My boss sent something in the group. I think it was Turkey or something. They actually banned importation of combustible cars, right? So now you can only import EVs. You can't import petrol and combustion engine cars. So the regulation kind of created a demand for this kind of cars, right? I mean, right now in this space where Nvidia is actually operating, and we have not seen regulation actually mature and follow to actually manage these companies, so that's my argument around EVs versus that. But yeah, let's see how China can faster replicate this.
That's going to be interesting.
I'd like to change tact a bit. I want to get slightly more technical about this whole concept of AI, in fact, data science. What is data science? Like, what is data science? I know it's a meeting point. My understanding, it's a meeting point of what? Computer science, of mathematics. Like, if you can just break it down to us, like what is data science?
Yeah, I've seen that intersection as well, and I think business and domain knowledge is also there.
Yes, so it's business, maths and
stats and computer science.
Computer sciences.
So so you've got a technical layer, you've got a more sort of mathematical layer, and it's all encompassing. And like in this business layer, we're solving a particular problem. I think it means different things for different people and companies. It's definitely something that I keep asking myself. It's definitely not a new field. The whole concept of using data for science, in that sense, has definitely been around, whether it's to describe what has happened in the past or predict what's going to happen in the future. That's definitely been the case for decades. What has changed and how it's become more of like a hype field, a more formal degree now at some of the leading universities, is that we've got the computational power to really process large quantities of data with a lot more complexity. We're sourcing data and capturing data from a lot, like various sources. I mean, we essentially holding a data device in our hands every day. Every movement that we make, every scroll that we make, whether it's walking with our phones or interacting with web pages, their data points that get stored and sampled, and their intelligent systems and models that are analyzing that to either, drive you to a site to buy something at a discount, or understand what you'd like to buy, or understand you as a person, your political views, so that potentially more content would be pushed to you in a polarizing way on social media. So I think data science for me is definitely coupled again to that intersection of business, computer science, and maths and stats. And I think that picture paints it quite well. You need that technical layer to understand how to manipulate the data, how to form it and actually drive a business decision. The maths and stats really comes in to understand, how to develop these models that, whether they're machine learning or more statistical inference or optimization, to really process that data and make a prediction at the end of the day.
Yeah. Look, just listening to this just makes me scary. It feels scary, man. Like the amount of control that we're giving up to devices and everything. It's just, it's crazy, man. Like they know my blood pressure. They know they know my stress levels. They know all these different things. I mean, aren't you guys scared of those elements of having to give up such power? Oh,
well, okay. For me, before we can get Ron to weigh in on this, I don't really see it as something that's scary, but I see it as exciting. I like the fact that businesses can now tailor make something that I would like personally without guessing or thumb sucking. So tailor making specific products for me. So I like sports. I'd like my content when I open up some social media to have a picture of Sasha van Gomezu holding a rugby ball. And I think like that stuff, if I know that in return as a consumer, I'm getting something which I'll enjoy, then I'm not quite sure how bad. I'm not sure if I see the bad side of it. Obviously, to take the good with the bad, or to take the bad with the good, there is element. If somebody knows everything about you, then you're quite easy to manipulate as well. Yeah. So you're very easy to be influenced in ways that you might not appreciate, which I do understand that. But I shy away from a disposition that this is stressful and this is scary, because I think that actually blocks us from actually progressing and going forward.
Yeah, because I mean, I think perhaps that's why governments are very big now on privacy, right? Yes. That you gotta have some sort of control on what you can give up and all those things. I mean, they're trying to regulate it, but I think it's going to be quite cumbersome to actually regulate, in my opinion, because it's very complex, man. And I don't know, it just makes me feel scared,
vulnerable.
Yeah, like I get the aspect of information that is tailored to me.
Yes.
But you know too much about me, man. you know too much about me. Information that sometimes, because remember, this whole thing of data analysis is to actually extract intelligence out of it.
Yes.
Right? That intelligence, I may not even have foresight for it, but you do. So basically, you know me more than I know myself, basically. Yeah. It's kind of like your bank statement, right? If you don't look at your bank statement and see, okay, I'm spending too much money on this and this and that, but your bank knows that. Your banker knows that.
Yes.
So having somebody else or advice knows so much more about me than I know about myself. That just makes me scared.
It's funny how scared you are.
I mean, the saying goes, when something's free, you are the product.
Exactly.
The user. So
that's actually quite true.
I mean, it's quite true. And I think Elon Musk also, I think when he was asked about it five or so years ago, will we have like cyborgs or sort of robots in the future? He almost looked a little bit confused. I think it was on the Joe Rogan podcast. It's obviously where this podcast is heading.
You see, Ronald.
In terms of popularity, not content. So he's like, we definitely already human cyborgs. If you think about it, we've got our cognitive self, we've got our physical self, and we've got our virtual self.
Yeah.
The only bottleneck is that it's a bandwidth issue. It's like we can't process the virtual self faster than typing, like using our thumbs. But once through his new initiative, the neural link, actually embed that virtual self somewhat into your physical and cognitive.
Interesting.
We pretty much gonna be like walking robots in that sense. Like your intelligence will be whatever's available on the internet, and you'll physically be able to move that intelligence around, obviously, and it'll be able to tap into and give feedback to and from your cognitive self in terms of your impulses, your desires, what you're thinking, and couple that to the internet. So it's scary. If that's exciting for you, I mean, I wouldn't want to do that, but at the same time, we are doing that through our phones already. Like, would you honestly say that you're the same person on your phone with your like virtual identity, like the likes of social media, the way you talk at work, on work emails, is the same as what you are with the physical people around you? I'm sure there's somewhat like of a difference.
But there's also similarities.
No, some aspect of similarities, but
it's not exactly the same.
It's not exactly the same.
No, fair enough. I want to just go back to the investment side. I'm just so fascinated.
No, I mean, look, we these are some of the things that we need to take into account when you're analyzing companies that are tech driven, right? I mean, these are aspects that the government is going to want to get involved and have some certain limitations. And once the government try to push those levers, then obviously it affects your bottom line, hit on the bottom. So that's when we'll start seeing all these elements, but you got to have a little bit of an understanding of what's actually happening in this world. And I think that's why, in my opinion, humble opinion, people are still figuring out what this thing is to a point where, because it amazes them, there's a little bit of sentiment that actually pushes the valuation up, right? And that's what we're seeing in NVIDIA. That's my really humble opinion right now, And it gets me really upset when companies get so overvalued like this, because even other tech companies just get,
with NVIDIA, I think to try simplify our Ronald's explanation there and his viewpoint is that I think at the moment you're having a gold rush. And in that gold rush, NVIDIA is supplying the shovels. You understand? So like the stuff that you need, so it's not supplying the gold, but it's supplying sort of like the infrastructure and the tools that you need to access the gold.
It's supplying very high precision tooling to execute a task. And behind that tooling, there's like a proper bottleneck in terms of the supply, the manufacturing, like all of that. But I completely agree. I mean, I think you're betting on the future when you look at NVIDIA's price. Like the price is essentially what the future expectation is of this AI space and where sort of NVIDIA and supplying the goods would be positioned.
And how did where did Meta and Google miss out on all of this? To get into all this, because I mean, now I think Google is trying to have its own AI, which has been flopping a little bit, in my opinion.
Alphabet,
Alphabet, yes. I mean, it's the same thing. And Meta as well has now put some weird red thing, blue thing that is an AI driven thing, putting it on WhatsApp as well. Bruh, I don't need that on my WhatsApp, But where did Meta and Alphabet actually miss out on all those bars and all of that? I don't know if you guys have views on that.
I mean, it's an interesting one. I think it's something that you do consider. Like OpenAI, when they approached investors, and we were already talking about this when I started career in data science. Like they were already promoting this thing that was coming. This thing, that sounded.
Which year was this?
This must have been like 2018, 2019. When you could already subscribe and show interest. The story goes, I think that they obviously pitched this to investors without knowing at all like how they're going to make any money from it, like what it's going to be. It's just going to be general intelligence. I mean, how do you commercialize that? And it really comes back to, I think, that you have to look at the training data. Alphabet, the quality of data that they have. I mean, they're a big player sort of in the internet
search engines,
And
they literally hold the biggest market share.
Yeah.
So they might be a little bit behind in terms of, you know, the actual model, but I think potentially they're quite far ahead in terms of the data and owning that flow of the data. So for them, you know, things could only improve. OpenAI is obviously acquired by Microsoft.
Yeah.
Microsoft's massive operating Office suite offering, they're building that into the likes of
that's why they built that thing. What's this on
Copilot,
Copilot,
all of that. Yeah, I mean, it's the
first,
like
a dummy one of the ChatGPT in my opinion.
But that's the thing, like they still own the platform. So when you're doing all of your productivity things, you probably interacting or engaging with some Microsoft product.
And it's quite scary because Microsoft, I think their M&A strategy of buying companies, they end up killing them. Look at Skype. Right, they build their own. They take the technology and actually rebrand it to a Microsoft suite offering, right, and not operate the business separately like Meta would buy Instagram and actually operate it as Instagram, even though you know it's owned by Meta and the likes. But Microsoft has this element of like buy, kill the brand, build the Microsoft.
They're buying the users, I guess.
Yeah,
it's the same with Beats by Dr. Dre. And Apple Music.
No, but mate, I don't really have an issue with that. I think what's very, very important there is how do the Microsoft shareholders feel about that? You know, I mean, at the end of the day, they're not taking these businesses for free. They're paying them at a fair market price. So if you're going to buy the capabilities of the technology, or even sometimes they're just the users of a certain business, as long as if they say yes, okay.
Fair enough. But I mean, Is that the best way of actually realizing value for shareholders? Can you
for Microsoft? Yes.
Can you sell a business as a whole more than you can sell it for the different parts? That's a big question.
Microsoft under is it Satya Nadella, the chief executive? Microsoft under Satya Nadella, has been amazing. If I am not a Microsoft shareholder, but if I was going to be happy. I think I want to end there.
A lot of people would have been happier.
I would have ended there. I'm not. Like, as far as your M&A strategy, unless if you're saying that, no, you guys must do business the same way Meta's doing business, or the same way Alphabet is doing business.
Not necessarily. I think my argument is more around if you actually operate a business independently, right, that you probably more able to sell the business separately for more than you can sell it for whole. I don't know if you get me. You know, in Naspers, we talk about this gap between
the consolidation discount.
Yes, the consolidation discount, right? That if Naspers can sell its business individually, they can actually get more for what Naspers is worth right now on a consolidated view. So that's my thing. That does Microsoft actually take that into account, right? Because I don't think investor sentiment actually builds the full value of whatever they go out and buy, right? You might find that only 60%, 70% of that is actually baked into Microsoft's valuation. But had they actually operated that business separately, most likely we're going to get the full 100% value of that business.
And most likely there's going to be a consolidation discount.
Yeah, but I mean, if you can sell it separately. I mean, you know, right now, if Skype, you can't sell Skype anymore. It's dead. But like the technology is built into your business, but is it built at a full price? That's my question.
I mean, it's a good point. I hear what you're saying there. Like, I think the nice best example is obviously Tencent.
Yeah.
Yes.
And where there's that discount.
Right. Yeah.
Microsoft, I almost feel like, for me personally, it's a bit different because they want to be this big player, like in the tech space.
Yeah.
And they essentially want to, maybe holding people at ransom is a strong way of putting it.
It is strong.
But, you know, had they not made OpenAI part of the brand, like maybe down the line, there could have been a lot more offshoots from it. So they almost need to bring their enemy or their foe in to make it part of this full offering. Like we can look at key events in the Microsoft history. I think COVID did them quite well, obviously, with Teams and the
Teams,
the whole suite of products that they offer. And I think the same now with this open AI thing. They were quite close to it and obviously funded it up to a point, and then brought some of the early founders like quite close to it, and now it's part of Microsoft. I think it, and I really don't know the back end of it, but I think it still operates as quite an independent entity in that sense.
For now, I think for now, but given the history of Microsoft,
for courses. I really think this it's like business-wise, as far as M&A is concerned, it's horses for courses. And I think your question, it really has to lie in the front doorstep of Microsoft shareholders. Are you guys okay with how you guys have been doing business? And if the answer is yes, why the hell stop?
No, okay. No, I think a parting shots. From you, Ron, how do you actually apply all of this system thinking that you have in your daily life, in your investment portfolio? I mean, offline, we're talking about some of on the property. So you actually diversifying to different sectors and asset classes. How do you actually integrate your thinking into all this different investment?
Yeah, I think there's always an element of risk in everything that you do. Like whether I go for a run on the mountain, there's inherently a risk. You know, you could slip, there's safety concerns. So it's always taking that into consideration, but always also realizing that there's an enjoyment element to life as well. I enjoy running. I enjoy being on the mountain. It's a risk that I'm willing to take if it's a calculated risk. I think the same is exactly true in whatever I apply. Whether it's investing in something personally, I did a bit of my own personal sort of direct investing initially, more so for the educational aspect of it, like academic exercise, getting closer to it, putting a bit of skin in the game. I didn't go all in and get greedy. When I hit a certain point, you know, I'd obviously take it off the table, or take some of my gains and sort of leave my initial investment in there. But everything's calculated. Everything sort of has a purpose to it. Everything is according to the life stage that I'm in. It is particularly difficult, as I mentioned, to do a lot of personal investing. If you want to do sort of short-term trading, which I'm actually quite curious about, like more again from an academic point of view, it's difficult at the current company that I'm at, and justifiedly so. So yes, we own a property that we want to short-term let in the future. So we see that as potentially an income-generating asset in the future. I know a lot of people shy away from property, but I think Cape Town has a lot to offer. It's a place that I want to feel a sense of ownership in, and that's why we decided to buy. So for me, it gives me a good feeling, you know, like about being in Cape Town and being around it. I don't necessarily say you have to own a property to feel a sense of belonging here. It's not what I'm saying. I'm a dad at the moment, so some of those risks are off the table. I'm not going to go put $500,000 into crypto, you know, and bet big. So yeah, there are definitely things in my life that ground me. We're fortunate enough to have a dual income. It used to be dual income, no kids, but now it's dual income kid. Which I'm not going to repeat the abbreviation. But yeah, I think, again, at the end of the day, it's those calculated risks, enjoying life, and take things seriously, but not so much so that you're losing sleep over it. Like if you're investing and checking your portfolio every day, and it's robbing you of like real life moments, is it worth it?
Makes sense.
So that's sort of how I approach things.
Short-termism. Last point, right? How does it feel to be a dad?
Yo, it's the best feeling in the world, I must say.
A dad of a girl, to be specific.
A girl dad.
Like if you talk about return on investments, just seeing your baby girl, like you're obviously throwing a lot of money into parenthood, but just seeing one smile every day is like definitely worth the return on the investment. And if I could make the decision again, you know, to meet my wife, to ask her to marry me, to have a good order, I'd do it all over again in a heartbeat. Like,
again, she's gonna be watching.
This guy, like since high school, he knows exactly what you're saying. It's amazing, absolutely amazing, bro. Thank you so much,
thanks,
man.
Yeah,
this was awesome. I really enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it, man. Thank you so much. Maybe we'll have you again.
We need him again. We need him again.
Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment. And this is episode 17, and we out.
We are out.